We're live. Church Ball Podcast. We're back. Chase, we're recording Monday afternoon before the Texas Tech game. This is the Texas Tech preview pod. That's why you clicked on it and everything. Before we talk about Texas Tech and what we expect from BYU and everything, do you feel any different from how we felt when we recorded right after the Houston BYU game on Saturday about this team and going forward?
Nope. Not the most exciting answer. Nope. Don't feel any different. What I saw is what I still saw, and I really need to see something tomorrow. I think watching this Texas Tech film and figuring out what it's going to look like a little bit. This is a chance for BYU to bounce back, but also a chance for them to cover up and improve on a lot of the things that they need to.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever we do these podcasts and stuff, it is very hard to be extremely rational in the moment. And I feel like we were good. I feel like we've been good about it. We haven't been overly. The only thing I think we got a little irrational on was our preseason picks or whatever going into this season. But, whatever, that happens. But after the Houston game and how I feel now, I agree with you. I don't feel any different. I felt like everything we said was warranted, and we need to see a major response in this Texas Tech game because this is an unbelievable chance at a quad one win. This is going to be great for the resume. Texas Tech is going to keep building on wins in the Big 12. They're going to be right around the same spot as BYU when it's all said and done come tournament time. So, therefore, this can be a huge, huge win going forward. You're at home. You just got embarrassed by Houston. This is the chance to come out and show, okay, we're a legit tournament team. We're a problem in the Big 12, Chase.
Yeah, it's also an opportunity to kind of get some revenge from last season. If you can recall, BYU lost Texas Tech twice. They were 0-2 against the Red Raiders. One, they blew that huge halftime lead in Lubbock for the regular season. Then obviously lost to them in the the quarterfinals of the Big 12 tournament, or I think it was the round even before that. But yeah, it's a chance to get some redemption for some guys. This Texas Tech team looks almost entirely different from the team last year. Obviously, Pop Isaacs was a big part of that team and smoked BYU in both those games. Different characters coming up Tuesday night, Carter.
Yeah, some different characters on the team, and you mentioned the games from last year at Lubbock and then in the Big 12 tournament. Because remember, we were at the Big 12 tournament, and the comments resurfaced a little bit and being like, I think it was Trevin Nell that said it was like, this is we're looking for revenge in this spot. We're ready to play them, and then just got butt whooped, got destroyed in that quarterfinal matchup. So, I wonder if there's a little bit of that for guys like Richie, Dallin, and Trevin and whatnot. But there's a lot of different guys. There's a lot of different guys on this team now, though.
Yeah, I think the focus isn't going to necessarily be revenge on Texas Tech, but more of revenge on themselves coming back from that abysmal performance just a few days ago. We talked about it, in our last episode. If you haven't listened to our thoughts post-game from Houston, like we're talking about, go give it a listen. We need BYU to bounce back here in a big, big way. So I expect them to come out super focused, having talked about and worked on and fixed multiple things, particularly on the defensive end. And I expect these guys to come out hot, to feed off a Marriott Center crowd. Students are back in town, should be packed house. Maybe not exactly a sellout, but at least it'll be full. There'll be some energy, and I think BYU comes out ready to go in this one, Carter.
Yeah, I'm excited to get back in the Marriott Center, Chase. It feels like it's been forever since we've been there. I think the last game we covered was Fresno.
It was Fresno. It's also going to be good to be back there for some meaningful hoops. No offense to any of the teams being played previous, but this will be an actual good game.
There's just stuff on the line for this one. I mean, the quad one opportunity is so big come tournament time. You got to be able to stack those, and you got to go 500 in the Big 12. And good chance to start off your week nicely, and then build off that going forward. Talking about Texas Tech real quick, they played Utah on Saturday, and we thought BYU got destroyed by Houston. That was somehow worse.
It was worse, and I was sitting there watching for Texas Tech, but most of the time I was thinking, holy cow, Utah's bad.
It's no longer the Pac-12 anymore, Utah. Like, it was jarring when you watch the game. I didn't get to watch live. I watched the replay of it, and you're just watching, you go, I mean, these dudes. This isn't talking about Utah as much, but it wasn't really. It's hard to gauge Texas Tech based on that game because Texas Tech was so superior athletically to Utah and so much more talented in every position on the court that it wasn't ever going to be a game against them.
No, it wasn't. And as we were watching, there's a couple of things stood out to me, Carter. First, Utah had horrible rotations on defense, which is something that BYU is struggling with, and Texas Tech made them pay for it. They shot just shy of 60% from the field, 46% from three-point land in that game, Carter, which is a killer for any team you're playing. Texas Tech, it's hard to pinpoint down exactly their style. They are athletic. They do like to push the ball, and obviously they like to shoot it, shooting well in that Utah game. They also have an absolute beast in Darian Williams, who was just feasting one-on-one against the running Utes last week. He ended up with, I believe, like 19, 4, and 5 and 9, which is an insane stat line, and he obviously was cooking. They also have bigs that challenged Utah's bigs down low, caught lobs, rebounded, ran the floor. So I would say a real balanced Texas Tech team that kind of have bits of it all, and their style, though hard to pinpoint, probably is because it's so fluid and they can play multiple styles of basketball, and they obviously did it really well Saturday.
It feels like they can play any style of basketball. It doesn't mean they're like unbeatable or anything. This team is beatable. They've lost to St. Joe's and other teams and whatnot and UCF, but also there's just been so many blowouts in the Big 12. UCF lost by 40 to Kansas at home. Like they were only a 4.5 point underdog in that game. That was crazy, but sidetrack. And Texas Tech here. I can't wait for ACC fans to know this guy, but people are going to realize who Federico is on Tuesday night. You're going to be like, wait, did they say his name right? Like, yes, they said his name right. That is Federico, Pitt legend.
Pitt legend, and just a fun name to say.
Right? I guess, yeah. And then you got JT Toppin, and then Kerwin Walton from Carolina. Like, they got pretty talented players. I'm honestly kind of surprised it hasn't come together more this season for them so far, to be honest. They seem like you look at the team on paper and you go and you watch them, especially in the Utah game, even when they lost to St. Joe's and whatnot. Yeah, they the second half they look solid, but the first half not so great. I'm surprised they're not a locked tournament team, because I feel like if they were in a conference like the ACC, they'd be talked about as a top 3 team in that conference.
Yeah, and they haven't been talked about at all. You haven't heard Texas Tech in any discourse this season, which is kind of ideal, but also sneaky scary for BYU, because they need to take these guys seriously, which I think they are, for the record, especially coming off of that abysmal loss. But it's a really good position for BYU. They are a quad 1 game. You get a quad 1 game at home against a team that isn't even ranked or even discussed, and you still get the chance to take quad 1. They're a little bit like BYU, Carter, where they have this talent and we see the names on the paper. We like, this should be working even better than it is. And maybe Texas Tech's turned a corner, although Utah's the bottom of the barrel of the Big 12. But it all came together in that second half where you start to look at Texas Tech as a legit team, like you're saying. BYU hasn't got to that point where we've seen it. Maybe if you want to say a little bit in the Arizona State game, flashes in non-conference. But right now we're down after that Houston performance. So just like BYU, this Texas Tech team, lots of talent, very deep. I mean, they play about 8 guys, serious minutes, and they all contribute. They all not only do the things they do defensively, but they all score points, and across the board, they can put the ball in the basket.
Let's take a quick break and let's talk about the BYU side of things. Talking about BYU in this matchup, we've talked about Texas Tech at length already. What do we need to see out of BYU, and how can BYU have success in this game against a very athletic Texas Tech team?
Well, I mentioned it before, and I'm going to start on the defensive end, Carter. BYU needs to be able to rotate properly and not get exposed on pick and roll like they did Saturday, and kind of like we've seen all season from them. In that Utah game, the pick and roll was feasting for Texas Tech, both from the guard play and then from Darian Williams, their stud, who's like about 6'7", 6'8", and just a beast of a guy. They would either hit the lob or they'd find a wide open guy in the corner, and Texas Tech was knocking those down. So what BYU needs to do, stay in front of your man, win your one-on-one defensive matchups, and handle the pick and roll properly. If you noticed, at the beginning of the season, they hedged really hard. and they would be aggressive on the ball handler coming off that pick. In this Houston game, they decided to sit back, let the bigs kind of sit and wait for the guard to come to them, and they got cooked. So I expect them to be more aggressive on pick and rolls, hedging those screens, and I expect them to be in a better defensive position, hustling to the basketball, closing out properly, and keeping Texas Tech out of the paint and then closing out on the shooters. If they don't do that, this Texas Tech team will make you pay. They have dudes that can finish, bigs that can rebound and catch lobs, and then shooters who will kill you if you don't get out there and keep them off the line.
I think that's 100% right. And you talk about this game where, the pick and roll and whatnot. If Texas Tech tries to go heavy pick and roll, then this is going to be more of a Keba Keita type game. And can he stay out of foul trouble in this spot? We remember this game was it in the Big 12 tournament, or I can't remember if it was Big 12 or in Lubbock, but this is a game where Down Hall can't get cheap fouls in this spot. There's not a lot of room for error in these big time Big 12 matchups, and staying out of foul trouble is going to be key because Texas Tech is going to be aggressive. They see the blueprint. They watch the Houston game, they watch the Providence game, they watch the Ole Miss game. They understand that if we can penetrate and get to the basket, we're going to have success against this team. They're going to get forced into situations they don't want to be in. They're going to foul. They're going to overcommit, and then someone's going to be open at the top of the key, or you're going to have an open layup. One of the two. And like you mentioned with the defensive rotations and everything, if it's not successful tomorrow against Texas Tech, then yeah, we're looking at a Texas Tech team that could easily walk into the Marriott Center and steal a win.
Absolutely. It's going to be huge. I mean, it all starts with the defense, and that's what we need to see. I'm really, I don't want to say concerned, but nervous, anxious to see, who takes these Texas Tech one-on-one players, especially Darian Williams, who can guard him, who can keep in front of him and keep him from bullying you down in the paint, because he's too big to put a guard on him, but he's too quick to let wings try and handle him. It's going to be a tall task, and we'll see who Kevin Young puts up for it. Maybe he gives Moet Mag, the defensive specialist, that assignment. Maybe he lets Richie, even though he's a little undersized, with his strength and his energy, keep up with him. Maybe he sits zone, Carter. Maybe he tries to throw some junk at him.
We saw some of that zone, I guess.
We did. I don't think anything was working in that Houston game, but
I don't. Zones... You could have thrown out 10 guys. I don't know if it would have mattered in that game. It was it wasn't their day or anything. Another point I wanted to bring up about this game, I think, is actually going to be very important, is free throw shooting. BYU's free throw shooting has been nothing short of abysmal. It's been terrible, and Texas Tech shoots pretty well from the line, 78.7%. BYU shoots 69.7%. That alone can be the difference in these games. A 9% difference in free throw shooting will determine a lot of games for you. So they got to knock down their free throws and also get to the line, because I feel like the Houston game, it's almost, you want to say burn the tape, but that's the tape Texas Tech is going to watch. So you can't necessarily say burn the tape for that one. But like guys like Cannon Catchings is shooting 48% from the line. That's not okay.
No, it's basic stuff. I mean, you and I played high school hoops. You sit around in the gym, you just shoot free throws for hours, man. Like the thing is, for college guys like this, you don't want to have to do that. I don't think Kevin Young's like just making them sit on the line. Maybe he is because of how bad it's been, but it's basic stuff. And you say 69% on the season. Let's say you shoot 20 free throws a game. That's 5, 6, 7 points you're leaving on the board any given night. That could be the difference, especially in these Big 12 games that come down to just a couple possessions a lot of the time, Carter.
Yeah, and especially when it's a 2-point spread, over under 150 in this game as of BetMGM. Where would you go in this spot? Would you take BYU -2, or would you take Texas Tech +2?
I like BYU at home, and I'm trying to be an unbiased. I did pick them to beat Houston, and obviously was super wrong about that. But I like BYU in Provo. I like them in a bounce back spot. They've been really good after losses this season. So I would take that BYU 1.5 pretty confidently right now.
With teams going when they travel on these weird road schedules with conference expansion, They're having to travel long distances and whatnot. Texas Tech played in Salt Lake City on Saturday, and likely, I'm assuming, I didn't check or anything, I'm assuming they're staying in Utah till Tuesday for this game. Do you think that's an advantage or a disadvantage? Because I haven't determined what I think about that.
I think it's a disadvantage. I like my own bed. I like my own routine. I like being on the road for too long, especially sitting around waiting for 2 days. If you're Texas Tech, I mean, obviously
they're doing
stuff.
Homework.
Yeah, they're studying super hard for the upcoming semester. Classes aren't even in session, and these guys are locked in. Karter, no, something about being away from home, it just screws with your routine a little bit, and you're not as comfortable. Again, like I don't know, maybe like the traveling would be worse if they like flew out late Saturday and then tried to come back Monday night or whatever it's going to be. But assuming that they stayed in Utah, I don't like long road trips. I think it's a disadvantage.
Yeah. I lean towards that. I'm like 60-40 there, but I also get it. Then the altitude factor and whatnot. People not from here don't understand. Altitude's a real thing, man.
Yeah. It'll get you. I mean, I was born and raised in Colorado, and it's still, I'm like, barely breathe sometimes. Maybe that's just because I'm out of shape, but
no, anyhow, the other, I like BYU -2 in this game as well. I said I like BYU plus 11.5. And you're like, oh, you're biased. Oh, yeah, it was a terrible pick. It was a terrible pick. I still thought Houston was going to win the game, but yeah, bad pick by me. Hand up. I like BYU a lot, -2 in this game. I think the Marriott Center's a massive advantage that doesn't get talked about enough outside of BYU circles. I think it's a huge deal. I think this is going to be night and day what Texas Tech experienced on Saturday compared to Tuesday. Saturday, you're playing in an open gym. It's an empty coliseum against a much less talented team. Tuesday, you're playing in a packed house with 17,000 fans screaming, and you got multiple NBA guys on a roster. I think it's going to be totally different. You look at the Utah score and you go, oh man, they whooped Utah. Like, don't take too much stock into that. We watched multiple games. We watched this Texas Tech team. I've watched Utah multiple times this year. Don't put too much stock into that. I like BYU a lot in this game. I think it's a little more high scoring. I think we see a ton of free throws in this game. I think we see a lot of free throws, a lot of fouls, and I think we get a little high scoring affair. I think the final score, I have 79-77.
I like that a lot, Karter. I think I agree with you 76. On the points.
Wait.
79-76?
79-76.
Okay. I think I agree with that. If you watch the first half of that Utah Tech game, Utah versus Texas Tech, actually Utah was in it in the first half. And the reason was Texas Tech was a little lazy on their backside defense. Utah got a lot of open looks in at the rim, a lot of backdoor cuts that Texas Tech they're just lagging behind defensively. I think you can take advantage of that, especially with guys with elite vision like Yegor and Dallin, and that's what they love to do. And bigs who can finish at the rim, coming off of it wasn't the best finishing performance, will be determined to do that tomorrow night. So I like the high scoring. I actually think it's even more than that. I'm gonna go BYU 81, Texas Tech 75. It's super close to yours, I know, but just a little bit more points for the Cougs off of a 54-point performance. So
yeah. Who's the number one player you're looking at on the BYU side? What's the number one player you're watching in this game and how they respond?
It has to be Yegor Demon, based mostly on what I saw from Texas Tech and their kind of habit of leaving guys open away from the ball. That's where Yegor thrives in finding those guys. It also needs to be a big bounce back game for Yegor. He's had a few less than ideal performances, and he's coming off of an injury. So I need to see him have a big game, and I fully expect him to do it. I think he matches up well with Texas Tech, and I think him or Yegor, I think double-digit assists. I think he finds a rhythm scoring. I like him to have a double-double, and I think he has a big game.
Okay, I like it. I think Yegor, he's probably one of the more obvious picks. I'm trying to get the stats up right now, but the computer's being a little slow. I'm curious to see Trevin Nell in this game. Look, a couple of the guys still on that Texas Tech team, I know he's still thinking about it. He didn't play that well in the two Texas Tech games, and he can him and Dawson Baker are kind of those X factors for BYU, where if these guys are hot, the game has totally changed. It opens up things so much more for Yegor, Dallin, Richie, Foose, everybody on the court. It opens it up for. I really need to see Trevin Knell or Dawson Baker get hot from beyond the arc. And like you said, I 100% agree with the Yegor stuff. He's got to show he can do it against that top level competition. Arizona State game was awesome, whatnot, but that was more the Richie game and everything. I want to see Yegor take over a game scoring wise and controlling the game and tempo wise too as well. And I'm curious to see, I think it'll come down to the wire tomorrow night. And who does BYU go to in those tight moments? What happens? Who's taking that last shot and everything? And I'm curious to see that tomorrow, or it might be a BYU blowout or a Texas Tech blowout. Who knows?
Well, you covered all the bases there, Carter. So one of those things is going to happen.
Yeah, one of those things will happen, but I think it's going to be a close win for BYU. And I think, who do you think they go to? Let's say tie ball game, 20 seconds left. Who does BYU going to right now?
It's Yegor. It's Yegor still.
Scoring or him making a play? Because I don't know if it's him, because I don't think it's him taking the shot.
No, I think it's him on a pick and roll, making the right decision, either finding the big on the roll or kicking it out to the right guy. I think it'd still be Yegor in this situation. They still trust that guy, and he's still the top 5, 6, 7 NBA pick that we all think he is. He just needs to settle in and figure it out.
Yeah, and his game translates so much better to the NBA.
Yeah,
and with the spacing and everything and how it's officiated, I think that's going to help him a lot whenever he goes to that next level. But we need to see him adjust, and hopefully we see that tomorrow night. Anything else before we wrap up?
Nope, just pack the house. I'm excited to see the Marriott Center again, actually a Big 12 play, especially with the new hype around this team. It was awesome last season, Carter. You and I went to just about all those games, and excited for this season and to see what the Marriott Center is like with all the momentum going BYU's way off the court.
I know. I'm excited for the Saturday games this season. I can't wait for BYU versus Utah in the Marriott Center. That's on. I think it's the last Saturday I think it's the last game of the regular season. Can't wait for that. That's going to be awesome. Just excited to be back in the building, and we'll see y'all tomorrow night there. And we'll record a live reaction pod from the Marriott Center as always. Make sure to hit that subscribe button at Church Ball Pod on everything. Like, subscribe, rate, review, and